So we get a ton of questions asking us about sanding and prep work between coats. We also get tons of questions about what we did to prep the car from start to finish. So I figured instead of texting everything out and writing everything out in comments, I would just make a quick video showing exactly what we did step by step on this particular build. Again, this does not apply to every build. It probably should or can apply to every build, but we're just talking about this particular build. So what we did, we got the Mustang in the garage. We had old paintwork on it. So we sanded that with wax and grease remover. We received new e-coated products in. We would also clean those. So whether it be old paintwork, new e-coated metal products, or bare metal, we would sand that with 80 grit after cleaning it. Why? Because if you don't clean it, you have the risk of rubbing any dirts, oils, silicones, anything like that into the car or into the panel, and that can affect adhesion later on down the road. Once that's completed, we're going to clean the bare metal, or the sanded bare metal, the sanded old paintwork, and the sanded e-coat metal panels with wax and grease remover to ensure that we have eliminated all dust, eliminated anything that we could have done to dirty the panels prior to paint. Once that's clean, we don't care how it looks at this point, body shape wise and lines wise, we're epoxy. Why? Because we want to seal the car, and epoxy seals the car from metal, moisture, and so on and so forth to protect it from rusting in the future. Once it's epoxied, we then prep the epoxy for filler work. To do so, we used Evercoat Rage Ultra, read their technical data sheets, and spoke to their technical hotline, and it was recommended to sand the epoxy with 80 to 180 grit to give the filler enough bite in the epoxy so that it would have proper adhesion. So then we had the epoxy, prep the epoxy for filler by sanding it. We then clean between putting filler on, then we'd apply the filler on. And then once the filler's on the car, we would sand that with 80 to 180 grit to make sure we got everything straight as narrow. Once we're happy with the filler work and everything's good and complete, we would then clean the whole car again, and then we'd re-epoxy. So we're not making an epoxy sandwich chemically, but we have bare metal that we epoxied. We then had that epoxied metal that we sanded and applied filler to. Once the filler is dried and we know everything's straight as narrow and cured, we then epoxied again to ensure that we have everything sealed, because the epoxy again protects it from anything outside of the car. It seals the car. Once it's epoxied, after we have everything straight as narrow, after our filler work is done and we're kind of ready to go to the next stage, we'll sand the epoxy with 320 grit. Again, we're using BASF products for this whole car, coatings wise. So we're using epoxy, the part number is 80172. On their technical data sheet, I believe it says you can sand it with 400, but their technical experts recommend sanding it with 320 to give it a nice bite for the next layer of a primer. Again, epoxy is sealing everything off. We then clean it with 320. Well, we then sand it with 320. We then clean this with wax and grease remover or RM901. We like to do both. We like to clean everything with wax and grease remover, and then as a secondary clean, RM901. It's like a quick dry cleaner. And then once everything's set, we sanded our epoxied, it's all clean, it's ready for the next coat of primer. We like to spray urethane. And it's kind of a high build urethane so that it allows us to shape the car even better and get rid of any minute defects that we might not have caught in the epoxy, even though we block sand the epoxy. So we spray our urethane. Our urethane that we're using, I believe, is 285-25 and 285-15. It's a black and white, and we mix them together to get the nice L-shade gray, which you see behind me. When the urethane cures, we'll be sanding that with 600 grit. We reached out to their technical experts for advice on that because we have a special metallic blue that we're using. It's called Blew Me Away Blue, and we're using solvent-based paint, and it's BASF 55 line. It's great paint. It has a high level of metallic in it, so we need to ensure that the grit that we're using to sand the urethane with will ensure proper adhesion, but won't also mess up the flakes of the metallic. So for this particular car, we have urethane. We sand that with 600 grit. We'll clean that again with wax and grease remover. Let that dry. Do a quick dry with 901 because we're a little too tense here. And then we'll base and clear coat. And we're using the 55 line. Once the base and clear coat are dry and cured, we'll wait some time to go on to the next step, and we'll actually wet sand the car. The cool thing about the 55 line base coat is they offer a hardener that you can use and put into the base coat to extend the amount of time you have to clear the car. So for instance, if I add the hardener to the base coat, I can spray the base coat on Saturday and then come back Sunday and apply my clear. It's a lot to spray one entire car in a day, so some people might like that. It's going to be kind of a game day decision what we decide to do here, but nonetheless, it will be base coating and then clear coating, letting that sit, and then we're going to wet sand. When we wet sand, we're going to try and stick in between the 1,000 to 3,000 range of sandpaper grits. You know, if we have to, we'll cut down to 800, and if we have to, we'll go up to 4,000. But we expect to be sanding with 1,000 to 3,000 grit, and that's a plan. So this is exactly what we did on the whole car. If I missed something, maybe I'll make a correction video. But yeah, hopefully this answers any questions you have. And again, we're not telling you what to do. This is just what we did based on the research that we have done, speaking to the manufacturer technical experts, along with other experts in the field. And after doing a lot of investigating and reading online, and of course, just, you know, we've been doing this for about 10 years now. So yeah, through experience and through testing and trial and, you know, and error, you kind of have a good idea as what you should do, what works for you, and hopefully this gives some guidance and helps your next project. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.